Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I know it's 5:20 in the morning, and I know I shouldn't be awake, but I am wide awake, and you heard me say it before, like most real men, when they should be asleep and they're wide awake, I do the news. Because that's apparently what real men do at 5 in the morning. So, interesting news about Julian Assange. So President Lenin Moreno comes out. Now beforehand, he said, I did not talk to the UK when I was in the UK about Julian Assange. Now, this was laughable. I have no idea why anybody actually believed this, but there were some people that gave him the benefit of the doubt. You suckers. You suckers. The reason that the quote-unquote anonymous source released information to the public saying that they were going to release Julian Assange and discharge Julian Assange was because the quote-unquote source was probably told to give that information but did not want to connect that information to the government, and they wanted to make it look like a leak. Leaks are not always leaks in the sense that the government doesn't necessarily want that information to be disclosed. It's very possible that the government released that information in a hint of an anonymous leak because it wanted to test how the public was going to react to the news. Oh my God, they're going to take Assange. Oh my God, it's imminent. Oh my God, it could be within a week. It could be within a month. They're going to take him. What is the angst that's going to happen in the public? What is the public going to do? What are we looking at from the standpoint of the government? And between the time we tell them about it versus the time where we actually go through with it, depending upon the public's reaction, the war of attrition that takes place, meaning the dissolution of angst, making it, when time you get to the moment, something that's bad, horrific, but to some degree diminished by having the information in the public in the first place. There's no reason to believe that the Ecuadorian president in the UK would not talk to the Prime Minister in the UK about Julian Assange, especially when everyone knows that this thing has been a quote-unquote stone in his shoe, as he put it. The previous president that was there before had this idea of sovereignty from the standpoint of Ecuador, and he didn't want his country to be diminished or stepped on by the United States. Rescuing Assange to some degree was in some way, you can say, was an outgrowth of that. If Sweden tried to give diplomatic immunity, you would respect Sweden as a nation. We, ourselves, are an independent nation. And if we are going to give diplomatic immunity to somebody, you're going to respect it. And he's stuck with that for the entire time of his presidency. The problem is, when he stepped down out of that presidency, the guy that's in there now was willing to bow to the United States and the pressure that's been put on him from the UK and the United States to essentially consolidate Assange. And at this point, looks like potentially discharge Assange from that residence. I can't think of the guy's name. It'll come back to me. Lenin Moreno, what is his name? The previous president. I always remember these two, and for whatever reason it slipped my mind. But it's kind of besides the point. There's news about Assange. Ecuadorian President Lenin Moreno says he did discuss Assange, despite before saying he didn't, with the UK government this week, and says the only person I haven't spoken to is Mr. Assange, and that's the only thing he wants to guarantee is that Assange will not be executed. The only thing he wants is a guarantee that Assange is not shot in the face. So this idea of asylum, when asylum doesn't really mean asylum, meaning when you've gotten a weak person as a president that's taken office and is willing to prone himself and lift his ass cheeks up as high as he can possibly lift them for the American administration that's in office, and give himself over in this way, give his country over in this way. One of the reports came out saying that the United States was buying Ecuadorian oil. And to some degree, is this monetary purchase, perhaps, was one of the factors that was put on the bargaining chip as Julian Assange himself. Granted, an unspoken aspect in this bargain. That's another interesting twist to this. I probably should do a video on this by itself. Oh, by the way, you can listen to him. I don't speak Spanish, so I don't necessarily understand what he's saying. Only certain words. But I'll let you hear it in case you do speak Spanish. By the way, when I was playing in a tournament, one of the women I was playing, it was this older woman, geriatric woman. She was spiteful and angry. And she sat down in that chair and she set the task to try to pick me apart. And my mom said, look, just because that woman is elderly, don't let that stop you from beating the shit out of her. And I didn't let that stop me from beating the shit out of that woman. Or at least try to. My point in this is, I don't give a shit if he's in a wheelchair. He is proning himself over for the wishes of Western nations. And Julian Assange, to some degree, is one of the chips in this. Your country granted him diplomatic asylum. And the idea that you would get rid of that diplomatic asylum is pretty appalling, especially with the history that the United States had toward South America. The idea that you would go back to that particular, almost like a colony of sorts, a vassal state. You should think more of yourself and your country. That's my point. I don't give a shit if he's in a wheelchair. He's fair game.
Dice que si quiere usted que el señor Assange, Julian Assange, se quede en la embajada de Ecuador en Londres, o que si es hora de que se vaya de su embajada.
Bueno, inclusive es hasta violatorio de los derechos humanos que una persona permanezca demasiado tiempo asilada. Tenemos una única preocupación. Jamás he estado de acuerdo con la actividad que realiza el señor Assange. Nunca he estado de acuerdo con las intervenciones en los correos privados de la gente para poder obtener información, por más valiosa que ésta sea para sacar a la luz ciertos actos indeseables de gobiernos o de personas. No es la forma. Existen formas correctas y legales de hacerla. Sin embargo, el gobierno anterior, porque es un problema que lo heredamos, el gobierno anterior consideró que el señor Assange corría peligro su vida. En Ecuador no existe la pena de muerte y sabemos que esa posibilidad existía. Es por eso que nosotros lo único que queremos es la garantía de que su vida no va a correr peligro. Hemos conversado ya y claro, lo estamos tratando con el asesoramiento legal del señor Assange y lo estamos tratando con el gobierno británico, que es con quienes nos corresponde tratar el problema.
De hecho, presidente, usted ha estado en Londres estos días. ¿Ha hablado con el gobierno británico de este asunto?
Hemos hablado, permanentemente estamos hablando con el gobierno británico, con la señora embajadora, que es su representante en Ecuador. Con la única persona que nunca he hablado es con el señor Assange.
Bueno, presidente, lo que ocurre es, y permítame que le pinche un poco, pero claro, es una situación que no se puede prolongar eternamente. En algún momento habrá que darle una salida, ¿no?
De hecho sí, pero esa salida se la tiene que hacer conversando. Si nosotros estamos hablando de que el diálogo es el mejor.
This is the weakest man on the planet. This is the weakest man to ever walk, or at this point, roll in a wheelchair on the planet Earth. He is giving over the sovereignty of his country to the United States, whereas the previous president, Correa, was unwilling to do that. This president has not necessarily been willing to stand up for his nation. This man right here, this ridiculous little man that's in a wheelchair, weakest man on the planet. There's another quirk in this. Right here. An Ecuadorian press report states that a double agent at the Ecuadorian embassy who was spying on Julian Assange defected to the UK last month when she was dismissed. The agent had been formerly working for Ecuador's intelligence agency, Lenin, under diplomatic cover. A double agent was, Jesus Christ. I guess, yes, you probably would expect an agent to be there. I'm not sure if I'm reading this correctly, but I can't necessarily tell whether she was a double agent for one or the other. And maybe it doesn't matter because it means she was a double agent for both. How weak can you be? How weak can you be? A double agent at the Ecuadorian embassy who was spying on Julian Assange defected to the UK. I suppose she was a double agent for the UK or working for the UK. Seeing as she defected to the UK when she was dismissed. The agent had been formerly working for Ecuador's intelligence agency under diplomatic cover. Well, that's it. This is just a news update on what's taking place. There's no good news to be found. From one insomniac to another, Amy Mitira. Thank you, Amy. I appreciate it. From one insomniac to another, we insomniacs must stick together. Yeah, I'll leave it here. Alright guys, if you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support the Patreon. Thanks everyone.